Hi everyone, from me, Brent Graham of goodforthegame.co.za, and welcome to this Thursday night edition of the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters. We've got plenty to talk about on tonight's show. Of course, we've got the Six Nations Round 3 preview. We've got the Bulls against the Lions, that's taking place at Loftus, and Super Rugby Week 2, 5 matches to look forward to. So without further ado, let's introduce I was going to say guest, but our second guest has just arrived as well, so I'm actually going to pop him in straight away, and let's actually start with him. Pablo, joining us all the way from Spain. How are you, man?
How are you? Fine, fine.
Good.
Very warm here in north of Spain. 20 degrees.
20 degrees. And
Yeah.
just to mention to the people watching, I'm actually in a soccer shirt tonight. I'm in my Brentford shirt, one of the South African bookies. I'll just try and show it here. Hollywood Bet is actually the sponsor there. But then the Admiral joined us from Dublin. We had a bit of problems with connection last time, but you're in a different venue this time. And from our sort of pre-show chat, everything seems to be 100% set up for this one. Welcome back.
Yeah, hi Brent. Good to see you. Yeah, a little bit colder here. It's been raining for about 10 days. It's not quite as nice as sunny Spain. But no, looking forward to rugby this weekend. Good to have the Six Nations back, and really good to have Super Rugby back. It's one of my maybe not as good as it used to be to watch, but it's still great fun to make a bit of money out of. So looking forward to it.
I must admit, I still, same with you, enjoy the Super Rugby a lot. I mean, for one thing, it's just the speed of play. I mean, they really do. And I'm not saying that that's going to translate into good test match performances or whatever, but it's just great to watch a game where the emphasis really is on speed. And I guess we can look forward to more of that this weekend as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it is noticeable, especially in those South African derbies last weekend. The refs, they could do with speeding them up a little bit because a lot of scrums and lineouts that were taking a long time.
It was a shocking. I mean, I was on Bulls overs. I don't know. The pitch was in poor condition. There was a bit of rain about, admittedly, as well. But it was an absolute shocking match to watch. Absolutely. I actually tweeted something along the lines of, give me Super Rugby any day rather than this type of stuff. Let me pop down to the bottom there. Pablo, have you been enjoying the Super Rugby as well as the Six Nations of the URC?
Not yet. Last week was a disaster for me in Super Rugby. And I didn't have enough time to watch the matches. So, yeah. Not yet.
I remember you saying it wasn't the greatest. But anyway, let's have a quick look at the outright betting. We've got the Chiefs now have obviously shortened into favourites at 22-10. The Blues are 24-10 or 2.4-1. We've got the Crusaders at 9-2. Hurricanes at just under 8-1. And I just want to go further down. The Reds there 12.5-1. And now, Pablo, the Reds is the one team we haven't seen this week. But do you see any value at this point in the long-term market for Super Rugby?
I don't like to bet on long-term markets because I think it's too much money in a long run. So I did nothing in talking about outrights. I don't know because last week Chiefs was really clinical against Blues, but for me it was a surprise because I was in the Blues camp. I was in the Blues minus 5.5. So now but I don't like to do outright bets. I only do in the World Cup, but nothing in the leagues because you have to first be in the knockouts and then the knockout rounds and then the final. I don't like it. Yeah.
That's fair enough. And Admiral, for yourself, anything appeal to you long term? I mean, on last week's show, Nathan made the point, the Mods man, he said, it's going to be a Chiefs Blues final. And I saw nothing in the first week to make me think any different, other than I was a bit disappointed in the Blues, like Pablo. I expected more from them. But any thoughts on the long-term markets? Difficult to find anything that the bookies haven't already seen?
Yeah, no, I'm the same as Pablo on the leagues. I tend to stay out. If I have to pick there, I'd take the Chiefs as the regular season winners because they've won away in Auckland now. But no, I think as Nathan said, it's the Chiefs or the Blues will probably win. So I don't see any value in any of them.
Right. Well, Henrik Swart is coming in and saying the Europeans won't like to hear it, and probably the South Africans as well. But he says Super Rugby is the best competition by a mile. And I must admit, yes, Henrik, I really do enjoy it. Although, funny, and I'm going to bring up Jason's message now because I appeared on the show on the bounce this week, which is more just, it's not really a betting show. I just went in to give some betting opinion. And there they were quite surprised how excited I was for Super Rugby. And what I realized was your average South African fan is not really that keen on Super Rugby, but your punter, your betting person, absolutely loves the game. So it's amazing how betting keeps us interested. And yeah, that show, I'll put a link in the newsletter tomorrow to that show. It was great just to talk a little bit of betting. We touched a variety of things. Unfortunately, the one thing I spoke on was the cricket, and not realizing, well, not considering that Pakistan would play before the show even aired. I actually tipped them to win the tournament, and they got hammered in their opening games. So anyway, enough on that one. But gents, let's move into the action. I'm on Bet Exchange's site here in South Africa. I just want to bring up the match betting for Super Rugby, and then we can get going. We may as well start with Super Rugby, seeing that it's Friday morning South African time. And Admiral, I'm going to start with you. We've got Chiefs against the Crusaders. I'm sure you guys probably saw on Good for the Game. I came up with an early bet. I took Chiefs -3.5. I capped this game at 8.5, and that's exactly where it's sitting at the moment. So obviously, the market moved very quickly. The question is, where's the value now? And we've got a points line here of 56.5. The Chiefs up against the Crusaders. To me, I've got to say, Admiral, the betting looks about right. Maybe something on the total points. Any thoughts your side?
Yeah, I was the same as you, actually. I had it at 8 or 9, and then it came out at -3 on Sunday night here, and I was about to take -3, and I fell asleep, unfortunately. So I woke up in the morning, and it was -7 or -6, I think. And to be honest, I think even still, actually, if I was to cap it again, I'd have it at -9 or 10 now. I'm just not convinced. The Crusaders won 4 games last year. And they beat the Hurricanes last week, but this Hurricanes team is a lot worse than it was last year. Like, they're missing Jordy and Artie are gone, and they have a lot of injuries. I mean, Levi Amua, Tara Lomax, Brett Cameron, there's a few others. So I'm not sure how impressive it was. And the Chiefs looked really good, I thought. So I took a -5 today at sort of shortened odds, which I wouldn't usually do. But I think the -7 is probably still a good call. They have, again, a really strong bench. Like, they've players Quintapaya, Sammy Penifino, Ratama, all to come off. So I'd be on the -7 here.
Right, Henrik. I'm with you. Obviously, still on the minus. The one thing, Henrik came in and he found point seems high. And Henrik, that's exactly where I'm leaning. I'm going to put the post up on the Super Rugby blog on Good for the Game, and obviously, having already taken the -3.5, I'm not going to be suggesting the -8.5, but I do think the points seem quite high here. Even New Zealand derby is incredibly entertaining, but there's normally a patch where they sort of cancel each other out for a period of time. So I'm actually looking a little bit of unders here. Pablo, in this opening game of Super Rugby, what have you got for us?
I have nothing in the handicap. I agree with you that the opening -3 was really valuable, but I was unable to bet because when I opened when I was able to bet, it was like at -6, something like that. So I think there's still value there because I have an expected line about 9-10 points different for Chiefs. So yeah, for me, there's still a little bit of value in Chiefs, but nothing there. But I was able to bet on the over 54.5, a couple of points below the official line. For me, line should be like at 56, 57, but weather is really good. Humidity like at 60%, 65%, 20 degrees, a little bit of wind, like 10 knots, 15 knots. But for me, just one unit, low stake, one unit on the over 54.5, because last week Chiefs defense was really clinical as well. But I think Crusaders, they can leak points. So yeah, a little bit of value in the overs, nothing in the handicap.
Right, interesting. So different views on that one. It's funny how you could look at a line of 54.5 and think yes, overs, and then like I look at 56.5 and think unders, but certainly not a confident call for me on that one. And it's going to be a very interesting game. I actually expect the total points to probably end somewhere between 50 and 60, and you do get that market as well. We're going to move on to the next game in a second. Let's just see Henrik's comment here. Away from home, the Crusaders will get less favor from the ref. So Henrik very much saying bet against the Crusaders there. Farid and 2M Systems are suggesting don't underestimate the Crusaders. Let's move on to the Reds up against Moana Pasifika. Pablo, I'm going to start with you this time. I first look at the Reds. They're -15.5. There's been a bit of money for them. There was 14.5 early in the week. And we got a points line here of 64.5.
I'm in the Reds camp, in the minus 12.5 early, 2 units, so normal stake, average stake. And also like the over 39.5 Reds, because I think they go strong and weather is quite good. There was a risk of some rain, but I think that it will be clear at kickoff. So humidity is like 75-80%, so not really high. And for me, Reds, they go strong. I don't like too much the first row because there's no Feisler. He's in the bench. I think it's a little bit weaker than last year front row. Sorry, but the back line is pretty tasty, pretty spicy. And come on, Moana Pasifika, they leaked 45 points last week against Force. So for me, line should be above 40 points and handicap around 18 points for Reds with my numbers. So yeah, I'm in the Reds camp, the minus 12.5 for 2 units.
Right, so that line obviously available a little bit early in the week there, 15.5 now, but from what Pablo is saying, still seeing a little bit of value there. Admiral, what do you think of this game?
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping people keep betting on Moana here, or sorry, not start betting on Moana, because the points lines for me, I have 41 for the Reds and 24 for Moana, and I think if you ever get a line of 24 from Moana Pacific away from home, I think you have to take the unders. I mean, last season I had a look, they didn't cover 24.5 once. Last week they did, obviously, but I mean, I'm looking here, like they normally struggle. They were normally in something teen. And it is the first game of the year for the Reds, but it's pretty much the same team of what we've seen last year. And they were excellent at home last year defensively. I think they kept the Chiefs to under 20. We'll have a look. Yeah, they kept the Chiefs under 20. They kept the Force, the Landers, the Waratahs. They kept a lot of teams under 24, and teams are a lot better than Moana. So I'll be on under 24.5 from Moana here.
Must I like that? That could well be making it into the Super Rugby blog. And just to mention, on the Good for the Game website, we've got links to the weather there, the opening bet. You can track what's happened during the week. There hasn't really been a lot of activity, to be honest, in the Super Rugby. But I really do like that unders play on Moana. And the other thing I noticed about the Super Rugby log is, I expected to see a lot of 5-pointers. I wasn't thinking about the bonus point rule where you've got to score 3 tries or more than the opposition. So, like the Brumbies scored 36 points last week, but they didn't get a bonus point. And obviously, the same in a lot of those high-scoring games. And I've got a feeling that the Reds are going to be a bit different. They're going to focus a little bit more on defense. I like that one quite a lot as well. Right, let's move on to the Hurricanes up against the Drua. Admiral, I'm going to start with you on this one. There has been a lot of money for the Canes. I just want to quickly look at the, let me just look at the Super Rugby blog to see where the line opened here in South Africa. Minus 14.5. I said 16.5, but it's opened at 14.5. It's actually gone over my cap now, and we're all the way up to 19.5 with a points line of 65.5. Admiral, what have you got for us?
Yeah, I was part of the minus 14 in the early camp, but I think this has everything lined up for a battering. To be honest, like the Drua, they've had to travel from Fiji. They had a day less rest, but they've made I think 12 changes, and from looking at the names, I think only one of those changes sort of improves the team. That being I can't even see who is there. Lomani coming in for Kuravali. The 12 changes, they were poor last week. I think you could probably say that they might take a step back this year. They might miss the playoffs. And the Canes, I was saying earlier that this Canes team isn't as good as it was last year, but there is still a lot of talent in here, and more than enough to beat the Drua. I mean, I think you might have seen on Twitter earlier on the week, I was having a look at the Drua's results in New Zealand since they've been in the league. And it's pretty bad. I had a look at the average scores, 47-12 to the New Zealand team, and that includes the Highlanders. So minus Hurricanes overs, I think they're all good bets. And even the Drua unders, which is at about 23 or 24, that's a pretty good bet as well. They've only scored more than 24 points in New Zealand once. in 10 games. So yeah, if the Canes end this game 40 points up, I don't think anyone will be that surprised.
Yeah, 100%. I think, Stefan actually just posted here, Kane's not as strong as usual. I think they'll still run away with this one. Very much similar sentiments to yourself there, and also to Pablo. Johan reckons points. Obviously, it is a high line here. Johan, we've got 65.5. Hendrik saying Hurricane turn it on. And then Reverend joining us, of course, from New Zealand. Great to have you. It's morning for you. It's night time for the rest of us. And Hendrik says James Dolman is the ref. Does that mean you're looking at unders or overs there, Hendrik? I know Dolman, but I'm not too sure which way he leans. So let me rephrase that. Which type of points game he blows? And Fareed saying Canes need to make up for last week. Right, let's stick with the Admiral then for the next game of Super Rugby. And we've got the Highlanders here up against the Blues. This game's, I've been pondering this a little bit before the show. We've got a handicap here of 11.5. I'll tell you that it started the week at 10.5. Okay, so in fact, I got this game horribly wrong with my cap. I said 5.5, but I did acknowledge it wasn't the one that I climbed into. I said, no, I'm wrong. The bookies are right with their handicap here. What do you think, Admiral? Do you think there's any value here still?
I think this is the game of all the games, Six Nations Super Rugby, that I'm not going to do. I'm not going to be involved in. There's a lot of questions. I think is the Blues defense going to be as good as it was last year? Because it was really excellent last year. Not great last week. How big is Hoskins Tutu being back? Will that make a difference? And the Highlanders, they were good last week. I think they probably deserve to win, but can they keep within 11 with the top two team? I really don't know, to be honest. So this is no bet for me.
Yeah, I see Fareed saying Blues all the way with the 2-2 back. And Fareed, that's kind of where I was leaning as well when I saw this Blues side. Like the Admiral says, not particularly strong on defense last week. I'm expecting them to return, but certainly not a confident call. I think 11 points, I think the handicap is not going to move much from there. Hendrik saying Jamie Joseph on the plus. Mondo joining us on Twitter. Great to have you watching there, Mondo. Over 26.5 half-time points. This man loves his half-time plays. And Andres joining us from where? The comments are coming into us from Joburg. Nice to be informed by you and your panel before the punting weekend. We hope we can help make you some money there, Andres. Right, Pablo, talk us through your views on the Highlanders Blues.
I'm in the Highlanders side, but just one unit in the plus 11. Not really confident because I think Blues, they will go strong. They will bounce back from last week's defeat against Chiefs. I don't like Gilbert in the wing. Come on, he's a first center or a fullback. I don't know what can do against Clark in the wing. I don't know why he's there. For me, my numbers say that Highlanders should cover the handicap, but I think this is the kind of match that they will be like Highlanders can be one score behind Blues, and they will win by more than a couple of scores maybe in the end. But my numbers show the opposite. So I'm in the Blues. In the Highlanders camp. The plus 11, just one unit. And I think this can be also an overs, but my numbers suggest the opposite. So no bet for me the points, just one unit on Highlanders plus 11. I like them last week against Waratahs, but it's Waratahs. It's a very, very weak team. So just one unit, yeah. On Highlanders, plus 11. Not really confident.
Yeah. And it was heartbreak last week for them against Waratahs. I thought they were going to win the match. I had them in a multiple to actually win the game. And, of course, getting beaten. They're not the only team to get beaten in the last minute last week. We'll talk about one of those sides now. And, Pablo, we're going to stay with you for the Brumbies up against the Force. The Brumbies, not very convincing last week, but they got the win against what I could say is a well-backed Drua side there in Fiji. They're minus 14.5 against the Force. And we've got a points line here of 57.5. Any strong views on this one?
My numbers suggest that Brumbies should score more than 36.5. That is the official line. They have a strong team. No Lolesi at 10. It's the only reason that I don't go with them, because I think it's right back at fullback. Slipper, Alatoa, Frost, Kale at number 8, so it's really Moorhead in the wing, so it's really strong and a lot of people back. But no Lolesi at 10, they keep that's the only reason I don't go for them. But my numbers suggest that they should score more than 36.5 points against Force, because the weather also will be really good, like 50% humidity, really low for that time of that, because it's at night the game. Or Brumbies minus 14, but I don't like that Lolesio one place. So for the moment, no bet for me. I have to combine my combines myself. But if I have to bet, I would go with Brumbies or minus 14 or over 36.5. Nothing on the first, because I don't trust them. They leaked 44 points against Pacifica. Come on.
Yes, fair enough. I see Henrik is saying force overs here. Stefan is saying, what a finish by Donaldson last week to win the game. That was unbelievable. I think it was 26 phases of getting nowhere but holding the ball. And then all of a sudden, Donaldson found a weak shoulder or a mismatch there and actually stormed through for a brilliant try. So well done there to the Force on that win. Admiral, what do you think of this final game of Super Rugby for the weekend?
Yeah, I agree with Pablo. I'd take the Brumbies overs here. I mean, Moana, they didn't just score 44 points. Some of the defending from the Force, it was really bad. Like they were falling off tackles. Like they made Moana look like the Chiefs. They were really bad. The Brumbies, I mean, that was a weak Brumbies team last week, and they racked up 32. I didn't get to see the game because it was on 3:30 in the morning, and I'm not getting up for that. But they've brought back most of the star players: Iki Tau, Wright, Slipper, Alatoa, Frost. So minus 14 or overs are both good, I think, but I prefer the 36.5 overs for the Brumbies.
Right, yeah, 36.5. I quite like that as well. I also haven't got my mind made up totally on the Brumbies yet. Stephen Mark sums it up maybe for many punters when he says Aussie Derby means a no bet for him. I must admit, these days I enjoy the Aussie Derbies a lot more than I used to. I'm going to get us on to Six Nations now. Let me actually quickly look for a little bit of, we can talk about the outright markets quickly, but we'll go straight into the Wales Island game. And Pablo, let's start with you on the Six Nations. We pretty much go past the halfway point this week. We've got a couple of what look like mismatches according to the betting. But if we just talk about the title quickly, it looks like it's obviously Ireland to lose. It's going to come down probably to whether they can beat France next week. What are your thoughts there? If you have to look long term, do you think Ireland are going to win the Grand Slam? They're basically 9 to 10 to do that.
I think so, but as I told you with Super Rugby, I don't like outright bets. So I didn't even look at odds. So if I had to bet in an outright, I would go always with the underdog.
Right, 100%.
But I didn't analyze the outright. Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. I just if anything did catch the eye. I mean, personally, I was actually looking. I think England were around about 11 to 2, 6 to 1. Now the problem with them is the best they can get to is 21 points, and Ireland, even if they lose to France, are probably still going to get to 21 as well, and it becomes a bit complicated for them. So probably no real value there. Admiral, anything you've seen on the Six Nations front that's worth highlighting at this stage?
No, I think Ireland will win the tournament, and will probably win the Grand Slam, but I don't think there's enough value there in the outrights for me. There was one which I'm not sure will be available in a lot of bookies, but if you have a look around, you might find one. It's the total team tries, so you can do over unders there. And if you're to look for Italy, that number is 8.5 at the moment. Now Italy have 2 tries in 2 games, so they need to score 2, 3, and 2 tries maybe in their remaining games. They've probably played their 2 easiest games in Scotland and in Wales. The main reason is they are only taking the points. Sort of no matter what the situation is, they are taking 3 points. Okay. I mean, they were 19-0 down against Scotland, and they took 3 every time and built their way back into the game. The same with Wales. I mean, I think they might be 9, 12, 15 up, but they just continue to take the points. And it would involve them scoring 3 tries against one of Ireland, France, or England, and then scoring 2 tries against the other 2 teams, which I just can't see, to be honest. Their attack is good, but it's not that good. And I think they're just going to trust Tommaso Allen to keep kicking their threes. So that would be the outright that I'd fancy.
Yeah, can I have a look? I had a quick look on BetX. I didn't have it there. It doesn't mean it's not available somewhere in South Africa. So have a look around for that. And let's stay with Admiral then for the first game. It's Wales against Ireland. We've had some interesting debates in the Good for the Game forum on this one. Of course, Jamison, our Welshman, or one of our Welshmen in the forum, is convinced that they can maybe pull off an upset now under the new management. The question I ask, and I guess others are asking, is it really going to make that much of a difference with the temporary coach, just given the sort of team at his disposal? And we have seen the Admiral a little bit of handicap movement from plus 25.5 Wales into plus 23.5. And we've got a points line here, 51.5. Anything catch your eye?
I would, if I had to pick a side in handicap, I'd pick the plus, which could be famous last words, because this could end up with a 40-point Ireland win. But I mean, Wales now have people playing in the positions that they should be playing in, which should be a given at international level, but apparently it's not. They have Max Llewellyn in, who's the Gloucester outside centre, who's maybe been the best Welsh player this year or this season for their club. He's been excellent. But I think the one I like the most is the under 51.5. There's a few reasons to that. I mean, if you look recently, these even since Ireland have had the upper hand in this fixture, they've been low scoring games. But I think the main reason is that for it to be 52 points or more, you're going to need one of 2 things to happen, which is Ireland will have to score 40, which doesn't happen very much, regardless against who we're playing, or Wales would have to score 17 points, 16 points, so 2 tries and a penalty, and I can't see them doing that at all, to be honest, against the Irish defence. So I would take under 51.5 for this game.
Right, under 51.5. Interesting one. Mark Dunphy, of course, from Ireland, coming in saying they will not win by 24 points. So he's not particularly confident there. Fareed making the point about Anscombe coming in. And I noted that as well. The only thing I want to ask is, where has he been? Has he been injured or that? Because I can't recall seeing him playing any URC. Maybe I've missed. He's made a move somewhere, so someone can let me know on that. But Pablo, what do you think of the opening game of the Six Nations?
I haven't got a strong opinion here. I don't know, because here with a new coach, I don't know how Wales will perform. But I have a little bit of confidence that the handicap may be a little bit high, because like Admiral said, that Ireland scoring 40 points is quite unusual away from home, and Wales scoring above 16 points would be quite usual at home. So maybe if I had a gun pointing to my head, and I had to bet here, I would go with Wales. But for the moment, no bet, and I think I won't bet here, because I'm not confident in any of the lines, not even the points, not the handicap. But if I had to, plus 24.5 Wales, but just one unit, nothing else. No strong.
Thanks, Pablo. Blake and Fareed just coming in confirming Anscombe's playing for Gloucester. That explains why I haven't seen him. Cathal Sheehan is, if Ireland don't win by 24 points, will be Wales' best performance versus Ireland since 2021. He was making that point on the forum as well. It's a tough one, this. I must say, I'm not too sure where to lean. I do like the sort of Admiral's reading there on the unders a little bit, but like Pablo says, I probably need a gun to my head to place a bet. I've got to tell you, I'm going to quote Oracle here and say, for me, I can't see myself backing Wales on the plus. So in other words, there'll probably be a no bet on the handicap, or potentially Ireland. Mark is asking you, Pablo, quickly, are you Basque or Spanish? And apologies if you're neither.
Yeah, I'm Spanish, and I'm half of my family is Basque, so both of them. I live like 1 hour to Basque Country, and more than half of the family is from Bilbao, from Basque Country.
Right, and just want to come bring Blake's one in here. 9, 10, 13, all across together and starting most weeks together. So, okay, there's definitely a bit more continuity in that Welsh side. Right, let's move on to the next game. For me, the game of the weekend, certainly, it's the Calcutta Cup. Another cup being played for here in the Six Nations. It's England up against Scotland. And Pablo, we got a handicap here. England minus 8.5 and a points line of 46.5. What are you doing in this one?
Here, overs, 46.5. I don't like the handicap. But I like the Northampton-esque English back line with Slade Holm, Freeman, Alex Mitchell, Finn Smith. They are really lively in the Premiership, the Northampton back line. And weather it's quite good, like 70% humidity. For me, line should be above 50 points with that back line.
Yeah, I must say, Pablo, that's the bet I've earmarked for this game as well. I went on that bounce show that Jason mentioned earlier, and they were asking me about this game, and I said I'm not rushing into the line because I don't see it moving much ahead of kickoff. So I'll wait until the day to see what conditions are like. But I like that over 46.5. I think with the sides these teams have, the fly halves, the fullbacks, I think we're going to get points in this one. Admiral, what do you think here? Are you looking at the points lines or the handicap?
Yeah, I agree. I think 46 is a bit low. I'd have thought it would have been closer to 49 or 50. I do slightly prefer the +8. I mean, England haven't. Is it 7 games or something? They haven't beaten Scotland. Or maybe sorry, I think they beat them once about 4 years ago. But a +8 hasn't covered anyway. In this fixture for 7 games. I think they've won the last 2 or 3, Twickenham, Scotland, and I don't think that isn't a coincidence. They do struggle with sort of how dangerous Scotland are in open play. I mean, Van der Merwe alone has 7 tries against England. He's going up against Tommy Freeman, who is a good player, but he's not the biggest and he is inexperienced at this level. So I think Scotland can win this game. You can get about 3-1, but I would prefer the +8. I mean, England did win against France the other week, and they were good. But to be honest, if some very good players who never drop balls didn't drop the ball, I mean, Dupont dropped I think 2, which were he doesn't do that. Penno I think had a couple, Bieberry as well. If those stick and France win by 10 points, I don't think anyone will be that surprised. So I'm not fully convinced with England yet, and more than a score against Scotland, and this is Scotland's World Cup final. They'll never be in a World Cup final, so this is as big as it gets for them. I'd imagine this will be Scotland's best performance in the tournament. So +8 for me, but the overs as well I think is a good bet.
Right, so we're all aligned on the overs there. Like the first, I know about I was leaning towards England on the minus. I actually quite rate this English side, but that's cost me a lot of money in the past. So don't get too carried away with my opinion on that one. Let's move on and stick with you, Admiral. For the next game, we've got Italy up against France. The handicap has been pretty stable from what I've seen, 18.5 points. Of course, France favourites in Italy. And we've got a points line of 53.5. 18.5. Is it enough against the French?
I don't think so. I mean, the last time I was on, I was praising the Italian defence against Scotland, and they didn't start well, but they got there in the end. But I think, with a team like Italy, who are now, they're a competent Tier 1 nation, and they will continue to take the 3. I think it's really hard to get 3 scores ahead of a team like that, who are just going to, no matter what the score is, they'll just take 3, and they'll hang in there. So for -17 to cover, or -18, it would want to be a bit of a hammering. And I just, at home against that defence and against Tommaso Allen's boot, I think it's hard for France to it'll be hard for France to get 3 scores ahead of Italy. I mean, we don't know the teams yet. I mean, I've seen the French predicted team, which is a 7-1 split, which is interesting. And possibly no Damien Penaud, which is I don't understand. I think it might be. Is it a character issue? Because it's not a talent issue with Damien Penaud anyway. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes if they do go 7-1. And I'd imagine the Italy team will be much the same as the past few games. So +17 for me.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the plus here as well. I'm also wondering about the French mindset. that loss last week would have hit them hard. As you said earlier in the show, they certainly had every opportunity to win that game and made some terrible mistakes. But you just wonder what their mindset is going to be, whether they've got one eye on Dublin in a couple of weeks' time as well. Pablo, finish the Six Nations off for us.
I agree with Admiral. If I had to bet here with no lineups yet, I would go with Italy plus 17.5. If they can stick in the game, I think they can cover it. But this is the kind of game that they are like in the Highlanders Blues game, they can be like 2 scores behind and losing the last play, something like that. So apparently France will start with Ramos at 10. He's used to that position. I mean, people think that he only plays at 15 for Toulouse. That's not true. They also play at 10 when there's no Ntamak, and even when Ntamak is playing, Ramos plays at 10 as well. So he's used to that position. No worries there for France. Apparently, the team will be really strong with good finishers. But if Alan is on point and Italy defense is on point, they can cover the handicap, but nothing confident here. So for the moment, no bet for me. And also the points. Apparently, the weather will be okay. It will rain in the morning in Rome, but it will be clear in the mid-afternoon. So nothing for the moment here for me.
Right, holding fire on that one. Johan Esthuizen coming in and says, Italy again on the first half cap. Right, well, that brings us to the end of the Six Nations. We're going to get into best bets in a while, but with a couple more games still to talk about. We, of course, have one URC makeup game here. We've got the Bulls against the Lions. Now, I must tell you, I'm bitter about the Bulls. I had so many multiples riding on them to score over 32 points against the Sharks. I had overs in that game, and they were absolutely hopeless. The Loftus pitch didn't help, but gee, the Bulls were terrible. So I'm a bit despondent about them, I must tell you. I think we've got a line here of about 7.5 points, which is pretty much where I handicapped it. Let's just have a look. 8.5. So in fact, I think that might be exactly where I handicapped this game. Bulls minus over the Lions. We don't have a points line, and I don't think we've got teams yet. Pablo, any thoughts on this one? Are you going to wait for teams?
Yeah, I will wait for lineups because my expected line was like 7 points advantage for Bulls. So it's quite similar with the official line. So just waiting for lineups. Nothing yet.
Well, Blake saying has come on the Sharks. Well, at least we know the Sharks won't lose this weekend. No, but in all seriousness, Blake, the Sharks were pretty impressive last week considering they were missing quite a few stars. So certainly, Mark, yeah, I'm with you there, mate. Bulls absolutely cost me. And Blake making the point, yes, the Bulls won everything but the match. They dominated the scrums, they dominated the lineouts, and they just couldn't do the business. Admiral, probably not the game of the weekend for you, but what are your views on this URC clash?
I'm the same. I had it as -8. I've been on the Bulls. I took the Bulls at halftime last week, just before the Sharks were down to 12, and I had them, I think, -1 against the Stormers the week before. But I saw they went down to 12. I mean, the scrums, it looked like a men's against women's team having a scrum. I mean, the Sharks were being driven back, but they just, I mean, they're really missing a backline. I'd almost say the Bulls. It's just they don't seem to know what to do with a 3-man overlap or a 2-man overlap, and they don't seem to trust their forwards to continue to batter through a weaker team. So I have it as -8, and to be honest, I don't think I could bring myself to back the Bulls again for a third week in a row and be messed around like that. So I think I'll be staying out of this one.
Yeah, it's one of those games. I'm looking forward to seeing the points line. James, I can tell you that, look, we all know the pitch is not going to be in great condition. There was evidently a concert a couple of weeks or a week before the Bulls game last week. So already the pitch was mucked up, but we've had so much rain in Joburg, and I imagine Pretoria as well, which is about 60 k's away. So because the pitch was in such a bad position to start with, I think it's going to be really poor conditions. So if bookies do come out around the 58, 60 mark here, I think this is probably an unders play. But like you, I just don't want to get burned from the Bulls. In fact, I find myself thinking that the Lions could win this game. That the Lions, you know, they were pretty impressive last week against Stormers. They go in there with a more positive mindset. But yeah, this is going to be, I don't know. It's maybe a game I don't want to get involved with. I'm going to give it further thought. Even making the point that fly half is the biggest problem in Pretoria, and I have to agree with you on that one. Let's talk then quickly a little bit of under 26 nations. And Admiral, I'll kick off with you. And Pablo, if you don't have any views on this, absolutely no problem. But I know Admiral follows under 20s quite a bit. We've got 2 games priced up here. England minus 33.5 against Scotland under 20, and Wales plus 10.5 against Ireland under 20. Anything of value there?
Yeah, I was surprised that they got it right, the bookies. I think anyone who's seen any of it will know England are going to batter poor Scotland. They have made some changes, so if they had gone full strength, I would have considered it, but they're missing Henry Pollock. You might know is their best player playing for Northampton. And I think there's been a couple other changes, so I'm going to leave it. If you get a Scotland points line of 12.5, 13.5, I think that's probably worth playing, because England could keep them to nil here, to be honest. They're seriously physical, and I think Scotland will struggle with that. I was the Ireland game, I was almost sure we were going to get a bet here. I thought they would undervalue Wales, but no, I think 10 is where I had it. I think that's spot on. If you are watching the game, want to have a bet, the Welsh hooker Harry Thomas is 4 tries in 2 games, and if you might even be able to get 2 to 1 on him. So if you're watching the game, I think that's probably as good as value as you're going to get. And then the third game, which isn't out yet, will be France Italy. I have that as a plus 19 or minus 19 in favor of France. So if you could get maybe a minus 15, I think that'll be good value for France, or maybe then the French overs, because the French backline is seriously talented. There's a lot of future stars in that backline, I think.
Right. Well, I'm just laughing at Mark Dumpy coming in. He said Admiral's got his half-term break from school. Yes, Mark. I also got a shock the first time I saw him in studio, because I've been corresponding with him for quite a few years, and I'm going, gee, this guy looks young. But I also want to make the comment is, mature beyond your years there, Admiral. Picking your bets and not getting involved in every game. I can tell you at your age, I was flying into absolutely everything and in all sorts of trouble. So great to get your advice.
I will say I'm not eligible for under 20s anymore, unfortunately.
You're not, sorry?
Not eligible for the under 20s team anymore.
Not eligible for the under 20s, okay. And Pablo, anything for you on that? And then I'll also say any other leagues. I can bring up some Pro D2 betting or something if you fancy anything else.
Yeah, in under 20s, I don't follow it, so sorry, I don't have any opinion. But in France, in the always interesting Pro D2, I'm with someone wrote there, Bessier, this week. They are at minus 12 against Balance. Balance is going with a second string. They rotate heavily. They are now in the fight for avoiding relegation with Biarritz, Nevers, Aurillac, because the 16th spot will be for Stade Nicois, that is like 20 points adrift from the other team. So they will fight for avoiding the 15th spot, that will have like a relegation match against the loser of the final of the National. And Balance, they rotate this week against Bessier. So Bessier's at home minus 12 for me, big value, 2 units. Only that in Pro D2. And yeah, Bessier Gerault minus 12, 2 units. And in top 14, I wrote in the forum about Bordeaux minus 12.5, now 190, 2 units. Now minus 13.5. They will come back apparently. Jalibert and Penot, they are apparently ill, but they are in line to play this Sunday against Clermont. And Clermont, they had plenty of injuries last week against Toulouse, especially Raka and Moala. They are injured, they won't play. And they are the best players, especially Moala. They are the best, for me, one of the best Clermont players, with Sowakula and Marcus Kremer. So for me, the line should be like 17, 18 points advantage for Bordeaux. So value there, even without. Also, the Porter is back from French camp for Bordeaux. So value there. And I like to match Toulon minus 13.5 as well, or Toulon overs, team overs. But it's not available yet, because Toulon, even without French internationals not available, they will they will have a strong lineup against Stade Francais. Stade Francais will be without Weber at 9, without Marchand in the center, and without Barret that is playing with France. There are big absence for Stade Francais, and my numbers show that Toulon should score around 40 points. So 37, 38, so value even in the minus 13.5, the handicap, or in Toulon overs. If weather is okay, I don't know if weather is okay, I have to check it, but if weather is okay, for me, Toulon overs and Bordeaux minus 13.5 or minus 12.5, sorry, 2 units.
Yeah. Well, great to get your views on that. And the nice thing about that Bordeaux game is it's on Sunday night, South African time at 10 o'clock. So if you're chasing, if you haven't had a good Six Nations, if the Bulls have let you down once again, you can get it all back on Bordeaux, and that'll finish off at around midnight on South Africa on Sunday. Admiral, just quickly before we move on to best bets, anything else catch your eye on any of the rugby leagues around the world that you want me to bring up?
No, nothing for me. I only sort of half follow the top 14, so I always enjoy watching it, but I don't know enough to be giving people advice to what to do with their money.
Right, well, let's move on then. We've had a good show and we've chatted about a lot of games. Let's move on to the best bets. And Admiral, I'm going to ask you to start us off there. What are your best bets of the weekend or best bet?
In Super Rugby, my two favourite ones are the Hurricanes, whichever way you want to back them, but be it a minus or an overs. And then the Moana under 24.5 against the Reds be my two favourite in Super Rugby. For the Six Nations games, there's a few that I like, but I don't think there's any that I think are brilliant. If I had to pick, I'd say the Wales Ireland under 51.5, but I wouldn't be hugely confident. I do quite like the under Italy total tries for the tournament, but I think you might struggle to find that on South African bookmakers. But if you can get the under 8.5, I think that's a very good price.
Right, good stuff there from the Admiral. Reverend just saying the Super Rugby pace is going to start taking its toll on the teams. I think that's fair enough. Before we get Pablo's views, I'm going to bring the Johannes treble up. Highlanders Blues over 54.5. So he's with Pablo on that one. Under 56.5 Chiefs Crusaders. And over 46.5 England, Scotland. Henrik Swart, the unders taker. By the way, I mentioned the unders taker in On the Bounce, that show I was guest starring on. Henrik, it's towards the end of the show. Definitely give you a mention there. And Farid says Toulon, Crusaders, Scots and Blues all on the minus. He says Scots on the plus there. Right, Pablo, your best bets for the weekend, sir.
Yeah, for me, the best one is Hurricanes over 41.5. Agree with that. Reds minus 12.5. And Bordeaux and Toulon, Bordeaux minus 12.5 and Toulon minus 13.5. Both those four. And also the over 46.5 in London, England against Scotland. And if you don't like the handicaps, because I don't know, maybe there are people that don't like the handicaps, Toulon overs and Bordeaux overs, not the handicaps. I like it both. So if weather is okay, that it looks like it will be okay in both matches. Overs Bordeaux and overs Toulon.
Well, I've got a feeling Pablo's going to have a bounce-back weekend. What's my best bet for the weekend? Well, I'm not sure yet, to be honest. I'm certainly, as you know, got that minus 3.5 Chiefs early in the week. But my news will come out probably tomorrow, probably after the first two Super Rugby games sometime. If you're not getting it yet weekly, you can subscribe. There's a link down in the description box below. And that brings us to the end of the show. So first of all, let me thank all the guys who joined us in the live chat and watching on YouTube and X. Great to have your contributions, of course, on the show. And then let me thank my guest, Pablo. Thanks very much for joining us. Great to have you back on. And what are your plans for the weekend? You just relaxing, watching rugby? You got anything else on?
Relaxing, yeah. And I have a couple of birthday parties. So I don't know if I can relax, but I want to.
I actually remember when I was attending birthdays, when I had young kids. I remember, and then I was
drinkers.
Yeah, I used to have something called the Walker, which was like a little TV before we had streaming on phones. And I would sneak off into the bathroom to watch games and stuff like that. Yeah, almost had to divorce a couple of times. Right, Admiral, what are your best plays of the weekend? Oh, you've given us. Sorry, man. I'm not jumping back up to you then. You've given it. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, thanks. As I say, great to see the Undertaker. Undertaker, you must let me know when you're ready for a gallop on the toe. I know you're not following the rugby quite as close. Thanks, everyone. We'll be back next week. Next week, am I right, guys? We don't have Six Nations next week. That takes another week off.
Yeah, Super Rugby next week.
Okay, so we'll be back definitely Thursday night for Super Rugby, and then probably a Friday evening show for what I'm assuming we're going to have URC or whatever. They will be back for that. But anyway, thanks, guys. Thanks a lot for joining us, and we'll see you next week for the Handicap Rugby Chat.